You weren't laid off. You were given their work. 3 people's worth, same salary. You stayed late, stayed quiet, stayed until you became a layoff yourself. They called it the restructuring, the optimization, the right sizing. They didn't call it what it was: a load transfer, a human redistribution protocol. Your desk stayed. Sarah's desk went. Marcus's desk went. Tom's desk went. Their chairs rolled into storage. Their tasks rolled onto your screen. The first week, you thought you could manage. Sarah's accounts weren't that complex. Marcus's reports were mostly automated. Tom's client calls could be squeezed in. Then you realized Sarah's accounts weren't complex because Sarah had spent 8 years learning their patterns. Marcus's reports were automated because Marcus had coded the automation. Tom's client calls were easy because Tom had built those relationships over a decade. You had none of that. Just the tasks, just the deadlines, just the expectation that productivity wouldn't drop. Your calendar became a game of Tetris played with meetings you couldn't win. 9 a.m. Sarah's team sync. 10 a.m. Your team sync. 11 a.m. Marcus's sprint planning. Noon. Tom's client call. 1 p.m. Your actual work. The work you were hired to do. The work that still existed, untouched, waiting. You started eating lunch at your desk. Then you stopped eating lunch. Then you stopped recognizing the difference between breakfast and dinner. It was all just fuel, all just the thing that happened between tasks. Your manager said you were doing great, handling the transition beautifully, rising to the challenge. You nodded, your hands were shaking. You told yourself it was the coffee. You'd been drinking 6 cups a day. Needed to cut back. The shaking didn't stop when you cut back. Month 2, you stopped sleeping through the night. 3 a.m., eyes open, mental checklist running. Sarah's quarterly review was due. Marcus's code deployment was scheduled. Tom's biggest client was threatening to leave. Your project deadline was yesterday. You tried to prioritize. Everything was priority 1. Everything was urgent. Everything was critical. So nothing was. The mistakes started small. Typo in an email. Missed notification. Forgot to CC someone. Then they grew. Missed deadline. Wrong numbers in a report. Client call that went to voicemail because you were on another client call that went poorly because you were thinking about the first client call. Your manager said you needed to communicate better, manage your time more effectively, reach out if you needed support. You nodded. Support meant admitting you couldn't handle it. Admitting you couldn't handle it meant becoming the next restructuring. You watched the others, the other survivors. Same hollow eyes, same robotic movements, same lunch skipped, same emails sent at 2 a.m. Nobody talked about it. Nobody admitted it. You were all just handling it, all just rising to the challenge. Month 4. Your body started filing complaints. Your brain was too busy to read. Shoulder pain, back pain, wrist pain, headaches that lived behind your eyes and never quite left. You bought a better chair, ergonomic keyboard, blue light glasses, stood up every hour. The pain didn't care about your solutions. Month 6. You got the email. Another restructuring, more optimization. You opened it with shaking hands, scanned for your name, found it. You were safe. You were staying. Then you saw the names leaving. Jessica, Michael, Priya. You worked with Jessica, worked with Michael, worked with Priya. Past tense already forming in your head. Their tasks would need to be redistributed, picked up by the remaining team, the survivors, you. Your manager scheduled a call, wanted to discuss workload, wanted to make sure you were supported. You joined the call. Your camera was off. Your face had forgotten how to look fine. She talked about streamlining, about efficiency, about doing more with less, about how this was actually an opportunity, a chance to really own your impact, to step up, to show what you could do. You nodded. You couldn't remember if your camera was off. You couldn't remember if you'd unmuted. You couldn't remember what your voice sounded like when it wasn't apologizing or confirming or saying, yes, I can handle it. The call ended. Your calendar updated. Jessica's meetings appeared. Michael's reviews appeared. Priya's tasks appeared. 6 people's jobs, 1 person's salary, 0 choice. You tried to quit. Opened your resignation letter draft. Stared at it for 40 minutes. Calculated your savings. 3 months if you were careful. 2 months if you were realistic. 1 month if anything went wrong. You closed the draft. Opened your email. Started working through Jessica's inbox. She'd left notes, tried to document everything. You wanted to feel grateful. You felt buried. Month 9. You stopped crying in the bathroom. Not because it got better, because you ran out of tears. Your body had redirected all fluid production to stress, sweat, and coffee processing. Your performance review was positive, exceeding expectations, handling increased responsibility with grace, recommended for high performer status. Your manager smiled. You smiled back. Your face muscles had forgotten the exact shape but approximated something close enough. You got a bonus, 3%. You calculated it, less than the cost of the therapy you couldn't afford the time to attend. Month 12, anniversary of the first restructuring. Sarah's old work was just your work now. Marcus's code was code you maintained. Tom's clients called you by Tom's name sometimes. You stopped correcting them. Your body stopped asking for permission to break. It just started breaking. The doctor called it stress, called it burnout, called it unsustainable, wrote a note, recommended reduced hours, medical leave, time off. You filed the note in a folder you'd never open. Medical leave meant someone would have to cover your work, your 6 people worth of work. That someone would break too. The restructuring would continue. The load would transfer. The survivors would survive until they didn't. You became the thing you were afraid of. Not laid off, worse, laid into the foundation. Weight-bearing, load-supporting, critical infrastructure. Remove you and the whole thing collapses. Keep you and you collapse. Either way, something breaks. They're calling it Layoff Survivor workload transfer now. The studies started appearing. The medical journals documenting it. The case reports piling up. The company's still restructuring. Still optimizing. Still transferring 3 people's work onto 1 person's nervous system and calling it efficiency. You're still at your desk. Still working. Still carrying Sarah and Marcus and Tom and Jessica and Michael and Priya. 6 ghosts and 1 body. The body keeps working. The ghosts keep quiet. The company keeps optimizing. The next restructuring is scheduled. You know because your manager sent the calendar invite. Another call. Another opportunity to discuss workload. Another chance to stay quiet. Stay late.